Hi, and welcome everyone to the next Keptn developer meeting. We're pretty excited to have again great content for today. We will hear a little bit about Keptn roadmap update, Keptn 07 roadmap update from Johannes. Then we have one of our great and top, I would say like one of our top community contributors, Christian Heckelmann. We have him here in the developer meeting, and he will show us one of his latest works on Keptn and his latest projects. And then we will kind of wrap it up after a discussion with the highlights of our sprint review, and we will show you like the insights, what is coming up also in the next versions of Keptn, and the highlights we have already fixed, some improvements we've made, and we will show you how to use this and what we have done here. So with this, I'm already handing over to Johannes to ask you to start with the presentation of the roadmap update, and of course take a look also here at some of our links. So if you want to join us on GitHub, it's github.com/Keptn. You will find all of our repositories, and for today I also added the Keptn sandbox because that's one of the repositories we will also talk about today. So I'm going to stop my share, and I will invite Johannes to join us here on stage and present this. Thank you.
All right, everybody can see the screen?
Yes.
Cool. Hi and welcome. It's nice to be back in a community meeting, and this time in a dev meeting. And I have pretty cool news because I want to give you now an update of the roadmap. We'll give you a look into the future, a future in which Keptn 0.7 will be available. And yeah, there are a couple of building blocks for this 0.7 release, and I will now quickly go through these building blocks so that you can understand what the team is currently working on. And it would be also really cool to get also contributors and to raise your hand whenever you think that you can contribute to the one or other task. But let's get started. I will start with the first building block, and this one is all about CLI enhancements to retrieve more information from Keptn. This is actually, this building block was triggered by Christian. He did a Keptn enhancement proposal, and he gave us the initial push to invest more time into this feature or into this set of features. And what can you expect? Or let me start with one other thing. What we currently see is pretty exciting, that because we can see that folks out there are using Keptn to automate, of course, things, but they are also building automation for Keptn. The best example was given by Christian in the last dev meeting, where he showed us a GitLab pipeline, and in this pipeline he configured Keptn and used Keptn by the GitLab pipeline. And going forward, we want to also level up in this direction, and we will provide endpoints to the public API. And these are endpoints like getting old projects or getting stages from a project, or getting the services from a project, and they will be publicly available. And next to the endpoints, we will also implement those in the CLI so that DevOps engineer can use the Keptn CLI to retrieve all projects, stages, and services, and so on. All right, this brings me directly to the second building block for Keptn 0.7, and this one is focused on improving the self-healing capabilities. And with this, we are also getting more features into the task of automating operations. And let me show you quickly how is it currently implemented in 0.6, because whenever we receive a problem from Dynatrace or an alert from Prometheus, then Keptn takes a look into the Git repository and looks for a remediation configuration. And this one is stored in the Git repository, and whenever Keptn finds such a file, then Keptn takes care of executing this action, and this is implemented in a service. It's the Keptn remediation service, and the action will then be executed by Keptn. And here I have again shown it that this action, which is configured in the remediation file, is executed by one particular service. And this provides some limitations because you folks out there, you actually cannot easily add an other remediation provider to Keptn, and this is what we want to address in this release. Let me show you how it will look like in 0.7. Because when we receive a problem, then again, Keptn takes a look into the Git repository and looks for the remediation configuration. And then again, the Keptn service, internal service is triggered, but in this time, the action is then forwarded to an action provider. And this can be, for example, ServiceNow. This can also be Unleash or any other custom remediation provider that takes care of executing the configured action. And we don't stop here. We also want to go a step further, because after executing a remediation action, we are then doing a re-evaluation of the SLOs. In this case, we are bringing in the lighthouse again and fetching data from the SLI providers to make sure whether the SLO is passed or not. And based on this decision, we then can escalate the problem via a notification event, which will then be received by a Slack bot or chatbot and so on. And this is what we want to address when it comes to the self-healing capabilities in 0.7. Then to the next very user-focused use case, and this is all about manual approvals of deployments. Because what we heard also from the community is that Keptn works fine and there's a lot of trust into Keptn, but the trust stops when it comes to promoting an artifact into production. We totally understand you want to put everything or you want to automate almost everything, but when it comes to deploying something into production, you want to make sure that you as person hit the trigger. And therefore, we introduced this concept of manually approving deployments. And let me take this example where we have the situation that we want to allow deployment into a hardening stage when the quality gate in the previous dev stage passed. This should be done automatically, but for production deployment, there we want to ask for manual approval. This is also outlined here where we have the dev into hardening, and then there is a hard stop in between the hardening stage and production stage, and Keptn asks for approval. Now comes the question, how can we configure this? I mean, an SRE will ask now, well, where can I configure an approval step? And this will be introduced by the shipyard spec version 0.1.2, because there you will then get the option to set an approval strategy. And let me use an example to explain how it works. Here we can see a shipyard file. This is a very, it's a regular shipyard file with 3 stages, a dev stage, hardening, and production. And let's use the example from before. we want to configure this shipyard in a way that we automatically deploy from dev into hardening whenever the quality gate passed. And this is done by adding these 3 lines. You say, I want to have an approval strategy. This one is configured in a way that it automatically promotes the artifact into the next stage when the evaluation passed. And when it's a warning, then it will ask for an approval. And to configure a hard stop before production, it's pretty much the same, except of one other configuration step, because you also add an approval strategy. You configure the pass, in this case as manual, and also the warning is configured as manual. And this means that regardless of the quality gate, you or Keptn will ask for an approval to promote into production. And on a high level summary, this use case addresses 4 benefits and 4 advantages, or 4 value gains. First, an SRE can specify in a shipyard that an artifact will not be automatically promoted. Then an SRE can specify in the shipyard that the promotion into the next stage depends on the evaluation result. And from a dev perspective, a dev can use the Keptn CLI to manually send a new artifact into the next stage. And last but not least, and this is a kind of spoiler alert for a next announcement or a next feature in 0.7, a dev can use the Keptn's bridge to manually send a new artifact from one stage to the next one. And this brings me directly to the next building block of 0.7. It's about exposing the Keptn's bridge. And what we will provide is a command like Keptn configure bridge, and then you have the option of an action where we say -- action equals expose. And when you hit this command, the bridge will then be available under the host bridge.keptn and then your domain. And when you click on this link, then you will access the Keptn's bridge. But the access will be secured by a basic authentication, and basic authentication asks for a default username and password, and these credentials will be provided during the installation of Keptn. And now to the spoiler alert I mentioned previously. Well, with this release, the bridge also makes an evolution step because it now moves from a pure data presenter into a control element of Keptn, so to say, because we wanna now use the Keptn's bridge to trigger certain actions from the user interface. And to get there, we also provide, or we also want to add an additional view into the Keptn's bridge. And this view is focused on the stages. Right now, when you go to the Keptn's bridge, you see here on the top left corner the stages of your project. And this information will move into a dedicated screen. And this screen we call environment because it gives you an overview of your stages, and it also gives you an overview of what's currently going on in these stages. You will get here a summary of how many problems are currently open, how many quality gates are violated, and how many services are out of sync compared to the previous one. And this is necessary because when we have the ability to stop promoting automatically, then we still need a way to pull an artifact from the previous stage into the next one. And this means when you click on a stage, you will see on the right side all the services in this stage. And here you get a button to trigger the deployment into this stage. All right, and last but not least, to the last element of the 0.7 release, and this is the Helm 3.0 upgrade. And we are aware that Helm.3 is available since November last year, and we waited a couple of months for this move, but now we think it's the correct point in time to upgrade our Helm service in Keptn from Helm version 2.12 to Helm 3.1. And the main benefit you will get is that Tiller is then gone, and you will not, there is no need to install Tiller anymore on a Kubernetes cluster. All right. This brings me to the end of the update of the roadmap. I will still be here in this community meeting, and I'm more than happy to answer your questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Johannes. Actually, we already got questions. The first question is there a plan to support also secure connections like HTTPS for the bridge? So when we expose the bridge, is it planned to provide like HTTPS encryption in addition to the basic auth?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe I can already kind of point the folks that asked this question into the right direction, because what we already have is tutorials how to set this up right now for yourself. So when you take a look at medium.com/Keptn, we have provided the tutorial. And also if you take a look in the Keptn sandbox, there is another tutorial how to set up Istio with TLS, encryption, cert manager, and Let's Encrypt to get this already out of the box. So you don't have to wait for the 0.7 release. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's coming or not, but you can already do this with your Keptn as of today to provide Let's Encrypt with the Istio with Istio and the cert manager. And we provided two different kinds of tutorials for you.
Yep. Jürgen, thanks for taking.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, also just to add, the bridge and the API of Keptn are currently secured via a self-signed certificate. While this is not perfectly secure, and most companies will not allow that, obviously, it is still an encrypted connection. So whatever you send over that connection cannot be, well, in theory at least, it cannot be stolen. So the connection is okay, but in the future, obviously, or by going through the tutorial that's already provided, you can have your own certificates instead of the self-signed certificate.
Yep. Thanks for taking this question. In 0.7, it's not planned to support that, but great that you mentioned your blog post that explains how to set this up.
Yeah, and this was actually a community effort. So
right.
I only took the work to write it down, but it was the great Keptn community that guided me through like to all the steps, what needs to be done to make this work. So there are two different kinds of places where you find the tutorials. On the Keptn sandbox repository, you will find one tutorial, and on medium.com/Keptn, you will also find the tutorial. So you can take a look there. And speaking of the great community, if there are no more questions for Johannes, I hope, Johannes, you stay in the meeting for
sure.
for maybe more questions at the end. Then I would like to hand it over here to Christian Heckelmann,